Man, these cards were only like 200. If I just buy all of them and sell them for 500, I'll be rich.
1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4...
It doesn't work that way.
Today, I'm going to talk about why buying singles is gambling and it is not investing. And I'm going to use an example using the IRRESPONSIBLE because it's a little bit more recent and it's a card that I do have. And I know a lot of times people might think I'm a naysayer, or people are naysayers in general when they're talking about how investing in card games sometimes might be a bad idea, or collectibles in general, because they feel like the naysayers are always people that are not invested in it and people that don't have these items. So they're saying, oh, you know what? These guys are just peasants because they don't have it, so they're going to complain about the people that do. And then the first initial reaction most people have is, what do you mean? You bought this, card that's $200, $250, and now it's selling at a median listed price for $500, and the most recent sale was for like close to $500. But we're going to stop right there because this is a trap that's really common that a lot of people fall into. Whenever we talk about buying and investing in collectibles and card games, a lot of us focus on the big highs and like all these hype channels where everyone's talking about how, oh man, this is going to the moon. You just bought this booster box and it just doubled in value. I just bought this card that just released and it tripled in value if you grade it right away and sell it as a PSA 10. And I know often a lot of the feedback that I get where it's more negative, or a lot of the downvotes that I get are from people that feel like I'm just completely against investing and completely against anything with graded cards. But that's not true. A lot of this info that I give out is mainly because I feel like a lot of people are overly invested in these things where they're not financially established to be able to stomach these losses, and it could potentially ruin their lives. So pretty much it seems like the videos are for anti-investors and, only for people that are against investments. But in reality, these videos are actually for the people that want to invest and actually need most of these tips and advice that I give out. And tying back to what I mean by people only focusing on the highs and why this is gambling, right? So let's just say, for example, another card game, you bought into MetaZoo. You bought these booster boxes like a year ago where they were $200, $300, and congratulations. They're now $800 and people are buying them for $800, right? So now that we have examples of highs, I'm going to give a few examples of the lows that people don't pay attention to. Let's say this lightning full art from Final Fantasy TCG, for example. It was going for $300 or $400, and now it dropped all the way at some point to like $150. It's, around like $200 right now. And this might be one of the best examples in recent history where this card was selling for $600, $800, $1,000 on eBay. And you even see these sales on TCG Player. And now within a month, it's dropped down to $146. And you could probably find them for even less in private group. So I'm going to go back to talking about why this is gambling and not investing. And I'm always going to restate this over and over again about why you shouldn't take advice from other people on these forums, on social media, in these Facebook groups telling you to buy into these things because it stonks, is going to the moon. They're constantly hyping up how, you could have profited big and earned double, triple, quadruple your money. First of all, if it was that easy to strike it rich, do you really think people would share info with you on how to become rich rather than just to become rich themselves? Do you see these billionaires, millionaires out there spending their time on social media telling you how to get rich? They don't, right? So yeah, going back to how if you bought this random MetaZoo box and you speculated on this, congratulations, right? Right now, if you sold it, you would have made quadruple or like triple your money. But the reason why I say this is gambling and it's not an investment is because this is not calculated at all. And this is just like a completely random chance that this happened. And I'll go back to using the full art Tifa, for example, right? And you could apply this to literally any card. If you bought these Tifas, let's just say for $300, and since you're seeing them sell for $600, right? Again, going back to the most recent 6-month history, only 2 of these have sold for $600. So let's just say even if they sell for $600, if you bought like 50 of these, if you're only able to sell one at a time at maybe once a year or once every 6 months, Or let's just say you're holding on to 60 of these and you can't sell any of them at all. Even if it's said to be a market price of 600, but if you can't sell any of them, then are you really profiting? I'm going to give an example of how when prices go down. And this is an example using the Charizard VMAX, where some people just haven't changed their prices, where at some point these were going for $400-$500, and you'll see like within 2 years, the price has dropped to almost $144. And this is exactly what I mean using all these data points and examples, that this is not investing. And if you're buying into these card games and you're not financially established and you don't have actual investments outside of trading cards and collectibles, you're not investing, you're gambling. Because if you're putting all your money into collectibles and trading card games, you're gambling because you're not diversifying. Most people that are not financially established, you don't have money saved up, right? So typically you're not diversified because you don't have a savings, you don't have money invested in your retirement, and you're constantly taking money out, and most of your assets, you're putting your money into these collectibles. And to kind of just break down what diversification means and why, when you're only invested in one thing, even when it comes to financial investments like stocks, when you're only invested in one thing, you're gambling. Because let's just say I put 100% all my money on Amazon, which is supposed to be like a really good stock, where I put 100% of money in Google. That's still considered gambling because you're not diversifying and you're not considering any kind of risk associated with putting all your money in one thing. If all your money is placed in one thing, if that one thing fails, you lose it all. So if you're thinking about putting your money into, I don't know, MetaZoo, you want to invest in Mushoku Tensei, you want to invest in this Roxy, you want to invest in Charizard, or whatever it is, right? You don't want to put all your assets and all your net worth into one thing. So let's just say if you only have $1,000 to your name and you put that $1,000 into Weiss Schwartz, or you put that $1,000 into MetaZoo, right? That's a really big mistake that you're making. Yes, we could focus on the highs of highs where people double, triple their money. But that's the exact same thing as if someone said they went to the casino and they put all their paycheck on black and they won and they doubled their money, right? But how many other people put all their money on one bet and lose all their money instead? So same with how I made the video on how opening boxes are gambling. And in general, how most people that dislike my videos or downvote me or have negative things to say, I just want you guys to take a step back and just realize that, at the end of the day, your money is up to you to control, and whatever you choose to do with it is a personal choice, right? But I personally feel it's very irresponsible to go on forums, on Facebook, or wherever it is and tell people how, this is the next grail. This is going to the moon. If you buy into MetaZoo, every set of MetaZoo now is going to be, better buy in now. When a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck and they might not be able to afford, these losses. If they lost $200, they lost $300 from buying a booster box. That's a whole paycheck, and that could have been like a portion of their rent. So again, when you're thinking about buying collectibles, buying trading cards, and you're buying these singles or sealed products or whatever it is, right? Remember that if you're putting all your assets into one thing, that's pretty much gambling. And again, I'm not completely against okay, there's no way you can make money from doing this stuff. I'm putting this message out for the people that need to know that if they have other struggles in life, like they're struggling to pay bills, they have, debts, they have other liabilities, they have kids that they need to provide for, you want to be very, very careful about how you manage and how you choose to use your money. Because you know what? Yes, you could have bought this Eris for $200 and then you could sell it now for $500-$600, right? But for every win that you take, and let's just say if you're able to sell it, then great. But for every other card that you bought that you can't sell, you have to consider, it's a risk. Especially when it comes to these things, they're not as liquid as you think it is, right? I could buy again, like 30 copies of these, does that mean I'll be able to sell 30 of these copies right away, or if at all? That's something you need to consider. Because just because I value this card at $2,000, does that mean that someone is going to buy it for $2,000, even if it's said that the market price is the $2,000? And then going back to the topic of time, right? You have to remember that these things take time to sell. Unlike stocks, unlike traditional investments or things you have in cash, you could easily get rid of them, right? But when it comes to collectibles and trading cards, it's a market that's very niche, and you might not be able to find a seller just because an item is valued at what it is, even if we assume that the price doesn't drop, right? Because worst case scenario, an item could bottom out on you and you could lose everything. And then consider this. Time is your biggest enemy when it comes to this, and the thing you have to consider the most. Let's just say you bought these Tifas at $100 each and you have like a bazillion copies of these, right? Even if they're worth $600 and you feel like you made out like a bandit and, you know, it's complete stonks. Think about how slow these markets move, and if you parked all your money into these collectibles, and let's say Tifa, for example, and you're trying to sell this for $600, in the past 6 months, you only would have been able to sell 2 of them. Meanwhile, your money is parked into like 60 copies of these that could potentially never sell at all. And again, it's very easy to focus on these highs, right? I know a lot of people would be going like, you know what, you're an idiot. Because I bought MetaZoo, I bought this booster pack for $300, and now every single day, someone's buying these for $800-900. But that's exactly saying the same thing as, you know what, Amazon back then, if I bought in, I would have been rich. So I believe in Elon Musk. So if I get in on the ground floor now with Tesla, I'm going to put all my money into it, and I'm going to go to the moon with Musk, man. Elon Musk, baby. And then let's also not forget the fact that when you're buying collectibles and you're investing in collectibles like card games, you spend a lot of time doing these things. So let's just say even if you're fully researched into this, you're looking into price histories, you're looking into the market, you're looking into what people are, you know, buying. And I'll go back to this IRRES-11 for example, right? I personally felt like this IRRES-11 was going to be one of the higher valued cards, not because it was a playable card, but also because I felt like the SP actually had a better card art than the SSP. So could I have just went in and bought every single copy for $200 and try to sell them all for $600 now, and I would have doubled my profits? I could have. It possibly could have worked out, but should I do it? No, because it's a really big risk that you have to calculate that, you know, you need to consider. You could easily look at every single card set that comes out in any card game and you could apply this to it, right? So people could look like, okay, we already knew the TD Roxy was gonna be in demand, and then you look at other sets like Pokemon, for example. It's very easy, like a Pokemon market. I know that every other card's gonna be worthless except Charizard because everyone wants Charizard. So I'm gonna invest in Charizard because Charizards are always to the moon. And I'll go back to the concept of talking about time. I have this giant time wizard here because time is a very important thing. Think about it. You have to spend so much time to even be knowledgeable about these markets to know what's going to go up, what's going to go down, what's going to be the trend, right? And typically most people will not spend the time to pretty much do their research because at the end of the day, you know what? If you had this much time to do research on these collectibles and whatnot, wouldn't you also have that much time to look into like what's the good stock and what a good investment is to go into outside of collectibles? And if that was the case, then wouldn't you have been rich prior to that to begin with? So why would you even be looking at trading card games? And then we'll go back to the concept of how much time it takes to actually sell these things, right? Aside from the fact that congratulations, you found someone that's willing to buy it for however much price that you're willing to sell it for, and it's like quadruple the price, right? And then you have to think about it. You have to ship it, you have to spend time to pack it correctly, you have to spend time to go to the post office to send it out. You have to spend time to make sure, you know, how to actually store these things so that, you know, they don't get damaged, because if something is sealed and it's damaged, then someone's going to return it. If your card gets damaged in shipping, they're going to return it. You're going to spend a lot of time dealing with all this BS in the process of just dealing with a buyer and a seller, because at the end of the day, you're working in customer service and it's a transaction. There are things that will go wrong, and when things go wrong, you're going to spend a lot of time just dealing with it. And think about it, right? At the end of the day, you're going to work, you're working your 9 to 5 or whatever it is, and you come home, you're already tired. On top of that, you have all these things, all this time you're going to invest to investing in collectibles and tracking these markets and all these things, when you could have literally just invested it in something in the stock market or your retirement program or anywhere else, as opposed to collectibles, where these markets are so fickle and could easily bottom out on you. And a lot of it is based on trends, nostalgia, and just, whatever's in at the moment. And think about how much time that's actually taking away from you, away from your family, that you could be spending time with people that you care about. And then on top of that, let's just say if you're single and you're not married, or you don't have people that you really care about that you want to spend time with. So in that extreme example, you could say, if you had that much free time on your hands, you could literally work an extra job as opposed to putting that much effort into investing in something that's not even, 100% certain. So I just want to remind everyone that we live in an age where everyone can say that they're hustling. You could be living in your mom's basement and, pretty much living off your parents and be telling people how to get rich and stuff like that. There's a lot of bad advice out there. And you just have to remember, before you think about putting all your money into these collectibles and trading cards, remember that there's other things in life you should focus on first. And you know what? It's a hobby. I personally enjoy it too. And I buy and sell on TCG Player, right? But I'm not going to put all my time and all my money into this, because that would be ridiculous. And that's just a really, really, really bad decision. So if there's one takeaway from this video, if there's the biggest one, I would probably say is just diversify when it comes to your assets and your net worth and whatever you own, right? Reassess your situation. If all your money is literally put into these cardboard collectibles and you have stacks and stacks of these in your house and you have no money saved anywhere else, that's a really, really, really big red flag and something you should probably change course. And without getting too dark, I just want to remind everyone that life is finite. It's short, especially if you take it for granted. So however much time we have left on this planet, think about it, if you're consuming your life with just constantly looking at your computer, constantly looking at these prices, constantly worrying about, oh man, is the price of whatever sealed product or whatever collectible that I bought is going to drop in price. If your life is consumed by that, then you're not actually taking advantage of the time that you have, that you could be spending with people you care about and doing things that, improve your life and then things that you actually enjoy. So if you're someone that's heavily invested in sealed products or just heavily invested in these card games, take a moment, just block everything out and actually look at all the stuff that you collected and think really hard about how much time it's actually consuming in your life, and if you're truly collecting it as a hobby and you're enjoying it, or did it somehow transition into a sort of obsession where at some point you just went so deep in on it that you feel like you just can't back out because you're so invested into these things. And if you're not finding that same type of joy that you had when you first started collecting, then I really suggest maybe just consider just investing in regular investments and then just spending the rest of your time collecting these things just as a hobby again. But that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. I hope the audio is a little bit better this time because I kind of tweaked it a little bit because I know I'm a very loud person in general, and I know the volume kind of peaks a lot. And I've also noticed that I hit 100 subscribers. I'll probably do a separate video on that. I'm really thankful for everyone that's been following the channel. I know I'm getting different types of attention, right? There's people that like my videos. There's people that think that I'm just like very anti-investment and anti-graded cards. But I hope this type of video actually brings kind of like to a topic that people realize I'm not completely against investing, right? I'm against the fact that people are gambling their lives on these investments, and it's very easy to just lose everything. And despite how it seems like I make my videos purely against hype and all this other stuff and against buying these things to try to profit off of it, I understand that when you're collecting investables, when you're collecting these collectibles and card games, pretty much everyone's invested in some sort of way, right? If I bought this Eris card or whatever it is, and you spent money on even buying booster packs or whatever it is, you're invested because you put your money into it. And who doesn't like to see these cards go up in value? If this card went up in triple in value, just because I'm not going to sell it doesn't mean it doesn't make me happy. But we have to be able to separate the fact that, at the end of the day, this is a hobby. And just because the value goes up does not mean that I'm going to put all my money into this and bank on the fact that if this triples in value, I'm going to be rich. Because as I explained in the video in full, these things don't work out that way. And for every person that talks about how much money they made, like $10,000, $20,000 on one sale, you have to remember there's a lot of people out there that we don't talk about. All these stories that are not shared about people that live in studio apartments that, bought all this stuff like during the Pokemon craze, where they have stacks and stacks of these sealed products that they thought would, never stop going down in value because all these idiots pretty much told them that, this is the stonks investment. And it hurts me to see because there are people that are, these are people that are struggling paycheck to paycheck, and they're taking advice from people that do not care. They don't care whether or not, you lose your home. They don't care if you're in debt and you charged all your money on credit cards to buy like a TD Roxy because you thought it would triple the price. I just feel like it's very, very irresponsible, and it hurts me to see because as a fellow human being, you should be taking care of each other, right? I think a common phrase to always say is, you always punch up, you never punch down. For people that can afford to buy these things, to afford to buy sealed cases of these things, rather than, punching down and taking advantage of people that are just looking to, make a little bit of money to support themselves and their family, people should be spreading the message that, hey, you know what? There's good sides of these things and bad side of these things as well too. And that's just my 2 cents. Sorry for going on a rant. Thank you everyone that's been watching, and I hope you enjoy a lot of these videos that are coming up because I'm trying to put a lot of work into these. Thank you.